Let me know when you see us over on the social medias.
Facebook, I see it.
All right. All right, welcome back,
YouTube
everybody. It is Monday night. It is the usual time, 5 minutes a little late. Sorry, guys, that's on me. But it is the Heat Takers IDP live stream. I am joined by the usual suspects, Paul, Killamal, Veldboom, and Kraig. I don't know what an Xbox One is. Ruth. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Excellent, excellent. Car needs a couple grand worth of repairs, and so does the house.
You're not having any luck today, Paul.
No.
What I'm hearing is you need to win some of these leagues so you have some extra cash to spend.
Yeah. Poker tourneys, all this good stuff. That'd be good.
How about you, Kraig? How's it going, brother?
It's good to be here. Getting a little break from all the craziness in the world right now, so glad to be here.
I hear you. Definitely shout out to all the guys on our team up in the Minnesota area. I know there's quite a few up there, Silvers and Jason, all those guys. We've been keeping up with them pretty regularly, and everybody's staying safe, which is the important thing. Jason's taking out his feelings on Warzone with me, or Warfare, or whatever it's called. He's been, him and I have been dying a lot together, so that's always fun. So just thoughts and prayers to you guys up there in Minnesota. I know it's getting crazy everywhere, but just stay safe, stay sane, and we'll make it. We always do. So to help you take your mind off things tonight, we're going back to. So last week we talked about the changes to Flea Flicker, and we will continue to put out things that address ranking your players with Edge and the new IL positions. But tonight we're going back to our startup, like we promised. This will run basically through the end of June. So this will help you understand kind of a standard full offensive defensive startup draft. So this is based on the scoring that we have over on rotoheat.com/IDP scoring. And we got through the first 5 rounds, almost all the way through 5 rounds. We're starting in round 6 tonight. We're going to go through, hopefully through round 11, but we'll see kind of how it goes. Now that we're in the thick of the IDP picks, it may be a little bit longer in the conversations, but don't forget to drop your questions down in the chat. Anything you have, we want to make sure we're answering you. That's the great thing about Roto Heat is we like to engage people. We don't just record content, we interact, and we spend time with you. So that's what we're here to do. With that being said, we are at the top of the 6th round. So that is Kraig. I don't remember how we were building the teams, but ultimately this is just kind of how we're ranking the guys through the draft. So if you have a specific direction you're going, you can certainly explain it, and we'll go from there. So you are up, my man.
Yeah, so team listed as team 4 for me. I have Chubb, Jacobs, Keenan Allen, Cortland Sutton, and just took, I believe it's up there, Nick Bosa, the previous round. And with the format that we have here, I'm probably looking for someone in sort of a flex position. It's sort of a mix of, not completely punting for the future here. And I think it's a little bit of a controversial pick, as we've seen in the discussions that we've had. But with him on the board here, I am going to take Todd Gurley, because I think he's got a shot to have a bounce back couple of years here and provide good depth for a team going now.
Can't fault it, especially on the offensive side. Gurley is a guy that, it should. That's a potent offense. He should have plenty of opportunity.
Yeah.
I was looking at certainly, but
What was that, Paul?
Yeah, I was looking at him for my go for it now team. The values there.
Absolutely.
Also, if anyone wants, I will be the link for the MFL League. I will post on the Facebook chat for this. So if anyone wants what selections and what order, looking back on it, it'll be there.
Absolutely. All right, so we get a couple of Pauls, then a couple of me's, then another Paul, then a me. So take it away, Mr. Paul.
All right, so this was the go for it later team. I had Mahomes, CEH, Sanders, CD, Andrews. So I will draft the guy who gets comped with CD and has for the past year and a half, Judy. And let's see here, the pick right after that, team 2, Dobbins, Fournette, Shark. I don't know if it's a hard sound or not. Tyreek Hill and Kittle. So this team's kind of in the middle. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he will go somewhere around here. I'll take Terry McLaurin for that one.
Terry. All right.
And the next pick is you, Brad.
Figures. All right, so let me get Scary Terry up here for Paul, and then so sixth round we're still looking at, if you're looking IDP, you're looking for kind of the elite guys. This isn't a place to look for depth players. You're looking for studs here. So let's make sure that pick went in. No, it did not. For some reason, that pick didn't take.
I think it saw that I selected it, and it's asking for confirmation.
Oh, okay.
Because I would never select him in a real draft.
But sixth round value in a startup is it's not bad, depending on what your team looks like.
Yeah. Someone would select him around here, just not me.
Yeah. See, and that's a tough thing, so when you talk, obviously it's a defensive show, but when you're talking about a wide receiver like that who was drafted by the previous regime, like there's just so many question marks from like, I'll let somebody else take a shot on that just because I'm not I can find better value, or I can find just equal value here and a guy that I like just as much. So I don't fault you if you do it, but I would probably look elsewhere just because I let everyone else take the risk chances unless I'm later in the draft and I'm risking on a guy I might like. So here, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, he was my combination of not old, but you know what you're gonna get, and that's the other one that's kind of going with youth. So
yeah. No, it's understandable. This team, so Brad 1 has elite quarterback Deshaun Watson, got 2 running backs, Jones Mixon, got A.J. Brown, and then grabbed Buda Baker. So it's kind of a balanced team, kind of young, but a team that definitely could have some, could be competing. So at this point in the draft, I'm thinking, okay, probably receiver, especially because some of the top linebackers, at least Darius Leonard went. But there's a guy like Fred Warner who would certainly be acceptable here. If you like the Corey Littletons of the world, you could do a Corey Littleton here. I'm probably going to stick with receiver just because of the way the team's made up, and go with. Oh, maybe I won't. No, probably not do that. Just looking at what's here, I'm not really impressed with what's here. So I'm going to look back to what do we got on the defensive end. All right, man, I like Sam Hubbard. I like him quite a bit. But I'm going to go with the rookie just because I'm going to go with the rookie. I'm going Chase Young just because I don't own a Chase Young share, and this would be the time where I would take a Chase Young share. I don't know that. I think taking that might be next year before you really see a good value out of him. If you're a Chase Young guy, I am. I think Ron Rivera does a really good job with his defensive linemen overall. So I feel good about that pick. Paul, Kraig, what do you guys think about taking a guy like Young this early? Because it is kind of early for a rookie defensive end.
My first thought was I was looking up my XFL franchise and was thinking about looking at what you have so that we can make a swap. I think it's a little early, but I would rather have another young defensive end, but okay.
It's a little bit earlier. I mean, I took one of the team's one IDP. I took Nick Bosa not that long ago. So certainly, if you feel like he's your guy, I don't have a problem with going to get him. And I like Chase Young, but as we sort of discussed on our top tens, I'm more of a, at least let me see 1 year of it in the NFL or some promise that first year that, I know everyone thinks Chase Young's a can't miss, and I kind of feel the same way on him, but I still want to see that production before I'm going to go investing this early on a guy.
Yeah, it's hard for me to ever say somebody's truly can't miss because, as soon as you do that, you're going to look like an idiot because the guy, gets hurt or something unforeseen happens that is completely out of control. So I take it because I really like the player a lot, and I think for a startup, this is I'm not upset about taking him the 6th round. I'd probably lean more towards but when I was like 7, 8 round, if you're really looking at it, but depending on your scoring, I think he's one of those edge rushers that with the format we're using, I think he could produce a decent stat line even as a rookie. He's probably not going to be a weekly starter until later in the season on a fantasy roster because it's going to take time to develop. But I'll take a chance and kind of see what happens just because I really like the talent of the player.
Yeah.
And if you guys if questions are coming up in the chat, feel free to shoot them out.
I think they probably need some sort of a trade of like an Ioannidis or an Allen or something before he sees all the snaps there. And by all the snaps, let's say it's 85% and they spell them out. However, but he probably needs someone traded, which will probably happen in the off season or week 8 or something.
Could, depending on how the team's doing. I mean, we all assume they're probably not going to do well this year. So if they're really struggling, any of those big contracts that are maybe up there in age, they're gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brad 4 is on the clock, and that roster is Kenyon Drake, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, and Jalen Smith. So I'd guess running back at this point. If you like, see, the tough thing for me is, if you're looking at some of what's left on the running back board at this pick, it's are you comfortable with Lev Bell for this year, the next year, maybe 3 years at most? Mark Ingram's definitely closer to the end than the beginning. Raheem Mostert is a guy that, other people in the community like Rick love him. I just have never been huge on him, and I just don't trust San Francisco to give a guy RB1 type production. But there's a couple of guys that are a little bit later down the list that I like. Now, obviously, I'm just looking at kind of how MFL ranks their guys and talking through that because a lot of our people are using MFL. I don't trust the way MFL does it, so I would never just take what's at the top. I always scroll down a little. I'm going to go with a running back that I really like, and that's Devin Singletary here. I think I think he's a good fit there, and I don't believe in Zach Moss, the player, because I think he's still trying to get to Buffalo now. That's how fast he is. So give me a running back. I'll take Devin Singletary here and pair him with Kenyon Drake and give me a couple of years of solid running back production. And then we're up to Paul 1. So Paul 1's team is...
This is the
go for it. Lamar.
The go for it now team.
Yeah, you got Lamar, Newt, DJ Moore, Kelsey, and Joey Bosa.
This team really needs a running back hard, and I can't take Maybe I take Gordon here.
It's either Gordon or Carson or Connor or Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Hunt will get plenty of action.
Yeah, those are the three. I like Hunt, but I don't think he fits the team mode.
It's tough because some weeks he'll have good weeks, but some weeks he'll just be non-existent.
Yeah, I'll take Carson here. Again, I would never be drafting him in this spot, but the go for it now team is. and that's obviously the biggest need because he's my RB1 right now for that team. And Brad number 3 is on the clock.
All right, I saw it say scroll up. What do they want to see, Kraig?
They wanted to see the earlier picks. Some of the people on the YouTube, just to kind of see where some people went earlier.
Oh, okay. We'll kind of
catch
start
up
at
to
the
the
top.
prior.
Yeah, we'll start up at the top. The first round went kind of as expected. Big name players, all offensive. McCaffrey, Saquon, Kamara, Thomas. And it kind of went status quo. The first round, we saw Kittle go in the first round. If you're a team that really likes, to grab that kind of elite tight end early. The interesting thing, I was listening to the Draft Network podcast today, and they were talking about how is San Francisco going to handle that contract, because the way that they play him, he spends most of his time in line like a tight end. I think he played like 729 snaps last year from in line as a tight end. But he also played out wide. He played the backfield. He played the slot. He's arguably top 10 receiver value money-wise, but, San Francisco doesn't like to pay skill position players. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle Kittle. Not IDP related, but fun fact.
And we do have a semi-realistic, I guess, question from Anthony in the chat. It was, I heard you're supposed to take 7 to 8 offensive players before taking a defensive player. And I kind of responded to him in the chat, but what are your guys' thoughts on that?
What's the value? What's BPA,
Yeah, I told him it kind of depends on the scoring, and it's nice to have something up to show comparative scoring of the positions to get your tiers to be able to make that sort of a decision.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem saying, okay, I'm going to draft 7 or 8 offensive guys, but if you're using scoring very similar to our scoring, there's plenty of value to be had in the 6, 7, 8 range for an IDP player. So, I wouldn't argue it, but I definitely would say, well, make sure you understand your scoring first and foremost.
Yeah, and we have higher scoring than what the normal is, so yes, that's about fair. I'm just shocked that he might be finally coming over to the dark side, which would be awesome.
I say we just push him all the way in. We just do like a massive, we get him in that Devy league I'm trying to start.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Must start a defensive tackle league. That's where he's going to start.
We don't let him in the kiddie pool. We just push him to the deep end.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the Brad 3 team has Zeke, David Montgomery, Jonathan Taylor, Allen Robinson, and Jamal Adams. So it's a very running back heavy team. Could go with any of the wide receivers that are available. As you look down the list, I'm not interested in Thielen. Robert Woods would be a pretty solid pick because it's kind of a win now team. With some of those running backs that are there. Tyler Boyd's there with Joe Burrow. I like most of the top couple receiving options in Cincinnati, mostly because of Joe Burrow. I think I'm going to go with Robert Woods here just because I know what I'm getting with him. And if this team's kind of trying to make a run at a playoff spot, they need to add some wide receiver help. So that's that. All right, so we got Paul 3, which Paul 3's team is Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, Debo, and Danielle Hunter. So it's kind of a balanced team.
Yeah, Woods, I thought about a couple selections before. I'm going to take Ertz here, the last of the really solid tight ends. I know he's...
You don't think Goddard cuts into him more this year?
It's kind of the go for it now team. So yeah, and that's my stock standard preface on. I wouldn't be making the selection, but this hypothetical team would.
I wouldn't argue him. Okay, so we got back-to-back Kraig picks. Kraig 1 has Dak, Cam Akers, loaded at receiver with Beckham, Evans, and Michael Thomas. So you could go a couple different ways here.
Yeah, looking at what this team needs and sort of where stuff lines up, I'm gonna, I guess, kind of buy into the hype that's coming out of, it isn't really camp, but the team, and I'm going to take Kareem Hunt and bank on him having a good year as a backup to Chubb, but also playing some receiver they're talking about over in the slot. So it's kind of another risky thing, but he's also not that old, and clearly I need to take a gamble here on a running back other than Cam Akers, who we don't even know is going to start either. So.
Well, and the nice thing about it, like I've got a couple of Kareem Hunt shares because the talent outweighs kind of being in a situation that's not great. But even last year, I mean, obviously different offense, different head coach, the whole shebang, but he was still producing startable numbers the weeks him and Chubb were playing together after he got back from suspension,
Yep.
And I think that could probably still be the way they deploy them now. So I don't hate the pick. I'm a big fan of Hunt still. So. All right, so the Kraig 2 team. Oh, you are too, Paul? Is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah, as am I.
Okay. Kraig 2's got Kyler, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Kenny Galladay, and Jarvis Landry. So it's kind of a balanced team. This is definitely a team that you could, if Kyler Murray really does push for top 10 quarterback type play this year, which everyone's thinking he should, this is a team that's competing.
Yeah, and looking at the type of players that we have available for something like a flex position, because I think that's what I'm looking at here. To keep us going, I'm going to take Tyler Lockett.
So you get yourself your receiver, and then I am back on the clock. The Brad 2 team is Saquon, Julio, DK, Juju, and Darius Leonard. So it's got some big pieces, and they brought their dad with them, and Julio, the aged veteran. So we could go a couple different ways. Running back could be considered here because there are still guys, if you trust like the James Connors of the world to stay healthy this season, or, Jordan Howard leading the Miami backfield, or Rojo, which I know some in the community love so much and hate so much. But I'm probably going to go because there's still some really good quality safeties that I like here. I may want to go safety here. Just looking at what's out there. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu out there, and I like him as a player. I like Tracy Walker from Detroit. He's continued to look good. Shawne Williams is a guy that probably will, at least this year, be. I mean, we've talked about, I remember Kraig talking at length about Shawne Williams. We were talking about our top safeties should have a good year this year. I like Kevin Byard a lot too. I like John Johnson a lot from the Rams. Oh man, even Jabril Peppers.
If you're looking safety, I can't believe you're thinking about it.
You can't believe I'm thinking
you
about
forgot
taking
who's
a safety. Well, I'm looking through the list because remember, MFL doesn't exactly have a great ranking of guys, so I'm just looking through what's out here.
Who am I a fan of?
Oh, Derwin James.
Thank you.
I didn't even see him sitting there. Yeah, so Derwin James is the pick. I was resorting.
He made it easy on you.
I was like, well, okay, you're talking about safety. There's a couple guys I've heard you talk about. So, yeah, and that's a tough thing. So as we're doing this draft, we're looking through, MFL, and they need a little help when it comes to how their guys are ranked. Like Jeremy Chinn's like the highest rated safety when you first pull up that list. It's like, no, that's incorrect. Don't get me wrong, I like the kid, but
yeah.
I don't like him that much.
Fan of him, but no.
Yeah. All right, so we got a double dose of the Jameson here, and Jameson's roster looks like 2 running backs. So we got David Johnson, Christian McCaffrey, we got Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, and Evan Ingram. So it's a fairly balanced offensive team. You could see them add another wide receiver, another running back, or something on the defensive side, depending on what your flavor is.
Yeah, we're definitely getting in, especially for linebackers and still some of your top-end defensive linemen into that range. of guys that are sort of that equal scoring, where do you want a flex position or do you want a starting linebacker or a starting defensive lineman if you're talking about your top 10 compared to that sort of flex position, because the scoring starts to even out here. Personally, my wide receiver board is probably a little bit deeper than the other top positions, so I'm not going to look there. Tight end, after those top few went, there's not a whole lot left in terms of quote-unquote sure things, even though we don't like that term. So I'm going to look towards linebacker here, and I'm going to take Jermaine Edmonds.
From the Buffalo
selection.
Bills. Yeah. And he's young enough
Solid
that
pick.
he's going to be there for a while. He's going to be a stud on your team for a while.
Yeah, he's my number 2 overall backer. Really solid pick.
Mm-hmm. And the nice thing is you could double up on defense if you really wanted to quickly dip into it, or because you're so far between picks, you can go back to your receiver boards. There's a lot of ways you could go with this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kraig.
I think I'm going to go defense again, just based on what's here, because without knowing what's going to happen and all that, I'm taking Aaron Donald, just the way I have someone on the defensive line I can put in there and not have to worry about.
Good choice. What are you going to say, Paul?
As a general, I'd say about the last 4 running backs, I'm probably considering defense over them, but I'm probably looking at the team and thinking, if I don't select one of Hunt, Singletary, Carson, etc., ahead of these guys, there might not be anything left when I select next. In a straight up even trade, if you have scoring as high as what we have it, I'm probably considering the last 3 and the next 3 defensive guys over them from a pure trade perspective. But this is almost the running backs are, it's getting thin fast, so I gotta hit it now.
Right. Absolutely.
We have a few questions in a YouTube chat here.
All right. Well, that's the end of the 6th, beginning of 7th. So let's hit some questions.
So these aren't specific to IDP, but we're talking offensive here as well. So I figured we can throw these out here. One of them is Ezekiel Elliott for the 1.03, 1.09, and Sony Michel in a 10-team full PPR.
I probably wouldn't. The thing with me in 10-team leagues, 10-team league, you want to make sure you're getting like the superstars. You want to really get the highest end players. The 103, you're still getting a really good player, probably a running back, but are you going to get Zeke production out of either of those picks? And we know you're not getting it out of Sony. So, unless you've got decent running backs to back behind him, I wouldn't. What do you think, Paul?
Was this a super flex league? I'm sorry.
No, it just said full PPR.
Okay. I can see the side for the selections. I personally don't own Zeke, and I will not own Zeke just because the price is too high in my mind. I also have absolutely no faith in their new coach, like absolutely none. I would probably lean Zeke, but if this is someone who earned a top selection, I can see you saying, all right, I'll take 3-9 and I'll pick first next year because I'm just going to, hit the button on it and move on. I don't hate it, but I don't like it. I think you could have gotten an additional second or something else in there. But it's okay.
Yeah. What do you think, Kraig?
If I'm in any sort of win now position where I think I'm doing all right, I'm going to keep Zeke. I think that offense, they've got enough weapons there, and it's assuming they figure stuff out with Dak. But history with Jerry says they're going to get that sorted out. So I think that offense is ready to take it up a notch, so I'd keep Zeke.
Good.
And then the other trade, and I think we know where this one's going to go, but Hollywood Brown and a mid-2021 first for A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown easily. For me, at least. I'm a big A.J. Brown fan. Paul?
I second that one. A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I like Hollywood Brown more than you two and probably most people. But I would probably, given where that pick is, if it was a higher pick, I'd entertain keeping that side of it. But if you're talking about a mid-round pick, you're a year out. We have no idea even what a draft next year is going to potentially look like. So I'm keeping Brown or taking Brown, whichever side of it is.
Well, and, I like Hollywood Brown, the player, but Hollywood Brown is one of those guys, like, you're going to see, like, a wide receiver 1 week and then, like, 2 or 3 or 4 wide receiver 3 or 4 weeks after that. And it's like, I need consistency. As much as I love the player, it's what's around him that's causing me to go, you know what? Let me have a guy that I think is a little bit more sure thing to give me consistency. But
100%.
That's why we got to get going into best ball leagues. Then you want a guy like that.
He would be fine. He would be a great choice in best ball for sure.
A round 1 selection.
That's a bit high, but.
All right, so great questions. Keep them coming. If you guys have questions, we'll definitely stop and take whatever you got. We're back to the 7-2 pick, which is the Brad 2 team that just took Derwin James. So now my IDP is Darius Leonard, Derwin James. I'm going with another one, even though I could go running back here. But I like Myles Garrett a lot, so I'm going to take him here because I don't know that he'll last much longer. And I think he's smart enough that he's not going to get in trouble again. I don't think his emotions will get the best of him, and that's all I got to say about that.
I'm surprised Donald went ahead of him.
Yeah, because this is the type of league that we're doing, you would be starting a defensive tackle. I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, he's going to be the top defensive tackle, but at this point, I was even thinking about DeForest Buckner until I saw what was there for edge guys. So, defensive tackle's not a bad spot here because there are a couple of really nice guys here, but Myles Garrett can be an elite guy when he's available. All right, so we're back to Kraig 2, which has Kyler, Derrick Henry, Kamara, Galladay, Landry, Lockett. So you got nothing by way of IDP, but you've got a nice starting offensive lineup, minus a tight end.
Yeah, in a situation like this, again, I think I'm going to leave tight end B for now. But in a PPR sort of setup like this, he's not rated that high, but I'm going to take a guy like Tariq Cohen here to supplement what I have here at the running backs.
I like the fact that it's basically I don't believe in Montgomery at all selection, and I love that.
Well, but see, they're both such different players. Like, I think they don't. It's not mutually exclusive. They both can be involved. I just don't I don't know why the offense didn't know how to do that with him last year, or just the fact that their quarterback was so bad that he couldn't distribute the ball. I don't know.
Yeah, it's sort of having faith that that offense is going to rebound, sort of pick there, and that I think.
I hope so.
For Rick's sake, that way he gets a little sanity back here.
If they put Nick Foles in to be the starter, I'm not sure. I think him and Craig may go off the rails. Craig Bullock, not you, Craig.
Yep, I know. My other team I have with the pick here, Dak, Cam Akers, Hunt, Beckham, Evans, and Thomas. And again, I'm not really looking at tight end here with the sort of second level depth, so that probably leads me over to the IDP side. And
Better not take who I want.
I'm probably not taking who you want, Paul. I know you don't have him this high, but I'm going to take Fred Warner.
MFL has him this high. He's such a good linebacker, though. I really like him, and I think he's a guy that San Francisco will pay to keep around because of how well he fits in that defense. So I think mean, I think you could see this type of production for him for a while to come. So I don't think it's a bad pick here.
Yeah, I actually looked at the stats on him over the weekend here. I didn't realize that they were as high as what they are. He's probably a lot more entrenched into future stats than what I initially saw. I completely missed on him 2 years ago and last year. 100% miss. Not gonna even argue it or anything like that. 100% miss.
I've been used to 100% misses here over this last weekend of video game playing we've been doing, so I know how you feel. 100% misses.
Yeah, 100% miss. Shot the air. 2 in the morning sessions are fun though.
they're all right, so Paul 3 is up on the board. We got Cook, Eckler, Cup, Debo's. Ertz was the last pick, and Dino Hunter. So you really could go either way. You could go another wide receiver. You could go linebacker, safety. I mean, there's tons of safety options out there and tons of linebacker options that are still really nice. You go D tackle because there's some nice D tackles out there. If you love Jeffrey Simmons or Buckner, you know, there's a couple guys out there that are real good at all 3 levels of the defense.
Yeah, I guess I kind of tipped my hand when Kraig said he was going defense, and I said, "Oh no, don't take my guy." So obviously, we're selecting a kicker.
Well played.
So I'm gonna go with Littleton. Out of, I thought they were in Oakland still.
The Raiders.
That's gonna take me like 5 years to think about that. But yeah, just solid upside. Just headhunters running through that area have just historically just been pretty good. Yeah, solid floor, solid ceiling. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't had a couple selections before this, but not to any fault of the picks in front of me either. Just
well, and the nice thing here is, like, I can't argue if you like Warner more than Littleton or vice versa, because they both are really good, are really solid producers. You know, they're going to get a lot of tackles, and you know they have upside to do some other things in those defenses. So, you know, I think Littleton probably has the most upside for the most amount of tackles of any of the linebackers that have gone in these last 10 picks. But I also like the upside of Jermaine Edmonds long term more than Littleton. You know, I mean, so there's kind of pros and cons depending on how you're building your roster.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so Brad 3's up. He's stacked at running back. This is the Robert Woods last round, so I've only got 2 wide receivers. I got a safety, but I keep talking about defensive tackle, so I probably need to just shush up and take one because my guy just keeps sitting there. So I'll go to Forrest Buckner. He was big in San Francisco. He goes to a defense that isn't necessarily as good, but has a lot of young developing talent. And that fills up my starter defensive tackle position for a few years to come because he's still young enough to be productive for probably another 4 to 5 years, I'd guess, if I were a betting man, because he's been a pretty healthy kid. And I'm a big fan of his production. I mean, he's been good for at least the last 2-3 years worth of fantasy production. But again, I preface any of these defensive tackle picks, make sure you understand your IDP league. If you don't have to start a defensive tackle, you're not drafting defensive tackles yet. This draft, you're starting all positions. So defensive tackle, defensive end, linebackers, all that.
And to give you kind of an idea, for the people playing along at home, this same sort of scoring last year, DeForest Buckner wasn't that far off in points per game and points for the season from a Devin Singletary or a James Conner. So that's kind of why you're seeing these defensive players slotted here, along with those sort of players that are on the board for other positions.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing about IDP, if for you guys watching at home, if you can get your scoring set up in such a way that it really helps to balance things, you can have defensive players that are scoring like RB2s, wide receiver 2s. Some of them, get into the back end of the one category when it comes to comparative value over a season. So, if you balance it out properly, IDP can be just as valuable as your offensive guys for the most part. So it really adds an extra level of complexity and fun to fantasy leagues. I mean, it makes it interesting when, I go into a game against a guy who's stacked on defense but kind of meh at offense, but he still beats me because the stacked defense is really good. I mean, there can be that kind of balance there. So
Craig and I laugh at each other in one of our main leagues about that one.
why is that?
His defense is just always awesome, and I pick just enough off the waivers to just go with an awesome offense. It's interesting once in a while. It's very interesting.
I see it in most of the leagues that I have that I've got to convert to IDP. You see either those owners that love defense and know the guys enough that they're drafting them and sticking with them and building, kind of building that up. And then you see the other owners that are just churning that bad boy every week, grabbing the next hot name off the pile and throwing them in. So, and either way works. I mean, if, depending on how your league does waivers, if you have enough fab to get you throughout the season, then go for it. I mean, there's plenty of guys that blow up from week to week that you can just kind of churn throughout the season.
Okay, so the next pick is
Paul
mine.
The loaded team that's trying to go for a run.
Go for it now. Buckner and Chris Jones are kind of that second or third defensive tackle.
Yep.
And he's the last one before you kind of see it drop off. I know that Jarrett is also good, but Jones just has that upside. I mean, he's such a dog catcher. He gets in the backfield, and that just historically works well in KC.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, just in Kansas, they're so good. He's going to have so many sack chances because they're going to be up a lot. I know he gets a lot of solos. I don't know if that's going to continue, but you're going to get lots of sacks from that inside position.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about Chris Jones. After that, you really do hit kind of a tier break, but there are some like defensive tackles that have upside and could develop. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, Simmons from Tennessee. He started to come on as the year progressed, even coming back from an injury in his rookie season. So depending on what you're looking for, there will be a next tier of guys, but I think you're absolutely right. I would now take a break from going a D tackle because there's other value to be had at other positions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he feels like a significant tier break.
Absolutely. Okay, so Bradford's got Singletary was the last pick. So Drake, Singletary, Adams, Diggs, Calvin Ridley, and Jalen Smith. So I'm probably looking. I mean, I can go with another linebacker because there are the Bobby Wagners of the world, Shaq Thompson, some of these other guys we still had in our kind of top 10 rankings when we talked about them a couple weeks back. Devin. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go Devin Bush here because I really like Devin Bush. Compare him to Jalen Smith.
I love how you said that. You're like, what? Bush.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is I scroll, because I really don't get. I didn't do a ton of looking before this because I've been prepping all sorts of articles and stuff for the site today. So I really wasn't looking to see what had been done so far. So as I'm looking through the list to see the available players, I'm like, MFL, you drive me bonkers. Just give me an hour behind the scenes to properly fix your ADP, and this thing would be so much easier for me.
Yes, and or have the redraft settings different from Dynasty. Absolutely. Import one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Brad won on the clock. This is the team that's going for it, but then I took the chance on Chase Young with my last pick. Well, I can't say he's really going for it. It's younger, but has some upside. Deshaun Watson, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, A.J. Brown, yada, yada, yada. So I'm probably going with another. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Craig. That probably is not going to happen. We're getting closer to the hour mark, so it'll probably be The end of this round will probably be where we stop. So we might only get 2 rounds today, but that's okay. We had some questions and some good conversations. So this team is kind of young, but still has a competitive edge to it, but really could use wide receiver to go with AJ Brown. And because it's younger, we're going to look for some sort of younger wide receiver that has potential.
Don't take the Viking.
I was about to take Justin Jefferson.
Don't take the Viking.
I see him right there. Okay, so full disclosure, there are a couple guys I like here. Mike Williams from the Chargers, Justin Jefferson. There is, I like Mecole Hardman and Curtis Samuel, but they're a tier break for me. Like, I wouldn't touch those guys just yet. Same with N'Keal Harry. And after that, then you really start to go with guys that I like that, but still need time to develop. Paris Campbell's of the world and Anthony Miller and things like that. So I'll go Mike Williams. I'll leave the rest for you because Mike Williams is a guy that I do love here. Still young enough. So the only conversation that I would have about Williams at this point is, if you're drafting him this year, you kind of have to go, well, I'm drafting him, but I don't know what I'm going to get because it's Tyrod Taylor quarterback, and then could potentially be a rookie if things are going off the rails. So, if you're drafting a guy like Mike Williams or even Keenan Allen, I mean, they're pretty insulated. They're really good players, but the quarterback play could be shaky because they're could potentially have 2 different guys under center because Tyrod Taylor doesn't stay healthy, and if they're going off the rails, they'll put the rookie in. So, okay. So next up would be Paul 2, which is Dobbins, Fournette, Chark, Hill, Scary Terry, and the Kittle.
All right. So I thought about taking Jefferson for this team, but I'm going to take him next at Paul 4, the all-youth team.
Okay.
For this team, I'm going to take Landon Collins.
Ooh.
Just solid floor, solid ceiling.
Tackle
machine. He's not going to get a ton of fumbles, but you'll get a couple of them.
Yeah.
I'm
might even get you an interception if you're lucky.
Yeah, he unfortunately gets a lot of solos because he's on the trail end of those. He's not a coverage safety at all, but that's exactly what you're looking for. Someone who plays the strong safety, who's basically someone's third backer, and with how awful theirs actually are, you can make a decent argument that he's their starting Mike. And he's safety eligible. It's just awesome.
That is very true. I mean, he will. I mean, he pushes for the tops and the defense for tackles every season. I mean, it's wild how good he is at tackling, which is what you need. I mean, at the safety position, if you can get a guy like that, I mean, that's huge. The Paul 4 team obviously put Jefferson up on the board. He's a guy that is going super young. Mahomes, CH, Miles Sanders, Judy Lamb, Jefferson, Mark Andrews. I mean, this is a team that even as early as next year is probably competing for a playoff spot, and if not this year. I mean, if these guys pan out like some would expect them to, you could be competing. I mean, these wide receivers may take time to develop, but
I'm probably, if CEH hits early, it wouldn't end up as the first time I've selected a KC runner who I've flipped by week 4 of his rookie year for just an insane amount. I did it 3 years ago, and I look at what I got from that, and I'm like, I won the ship because of him, and him. Take that. But yeah, that would be one where if I didn't select first on my own, I'd kind of make sure I fudged it to get there. Oh, you're doing awesome. Yeah. Trade you. Get out of here. I don't need you.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing is depending on what time of the year you do that trade, you could get a ton of draft capital. If you're in season and you look to trade somebody who's booming and young and and in an offense like KC, I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, you can get insane value. I mean, even now, now is rookie fever. I literally just traded. So a guy in one of my leagues is kind of selling off and trying to get younger. I have AGG sitting on my taxi squad, Antonio Gandy Golden. I literally just traded him straight up for Sterling Sharp. Or Shepard, not Sharp. I would have traded him for Sterling Sharp. Sterling Shepard. I know Shepard's got some injury concerns, but my team isn't bad and could use some wide receiver depth. So why not?
Yeah.
Rookie fever this time of year and then draft picks during the season. I mean, it's you find those sweet spots and you can load up with some crazy value.
I was at the game where Sharp broke his neck.
Oh, that was a
the career ender.
That was so.
The
I felt
career
so
ender.
bad for him. He was so good.
Yes, that was the game where Favre. That was the last game they played in Milwaukee. County Stadium. Last game.
Well, it's not like Favre was very helpful to his receivers. You would either gun it in there and try to break your hands or throw it into coverage and get you mauled.
Yeah. But yeah, Sterling Sharp was, if he plays another 2 years, maybe 3, and he's on that 96 team that won it all, he's probably a Hall of Famer, but
He'll still make it at some point. He's just not, not first ballot, second. I mean, it could be a while, but he'll still get in. He's such a good receiver when he played. And I hate Green Bay. I hate everything about Green Bay. As a Lions fan, I didn't even want to have you guys on the show, but I like you both as individuals, so I make do with it.
That's right.
I'm not a Packer fan, man.
I know, you're a Cowboy fan, but that's almost as bad.
That's right. 93 wild card. Favre throws it 50 yards and just destroys the Lions' hearts. This is our one shot with Sanders. Nope. Get out of playoffs.
Well, on the 91 season, I remember going to a couple games in the 91 season when they went and lost to Washington, and they just didn't even look like they deserved to be there. I'm like, why are you people doing this to Barry? This is like the greatest running back in history, and you put a bunch of knuckleheads around him. He deserves better than this. But...
And then you went and got Scott Mitchell. Whoops!
Like, man, Barry, we really care about you. Here's a future bag packer of the world. I mean, he's just terrible. Okay, so enough of a trip down memory lane. Kraig 4 is going to round out round 7. So, all right, so we'll have to reshuffle the deck. Next week, we'll have to pick it up at the beginning of round 8. We only got through 2 rounds tonight, boys, but that's okay. We had a good time, and it's good stuff. But we'll close it off. Kraig 4 has a lot of running backs. Chubb, Gurley, Jacobs, Keenan Allen, Courtland Sutton, and Nick Bosa. So where is Kraig 4 going to go with his pick, Kraig?
I'm going to go with a guy that is going in this area and had a nice year last year that I'm not a big fan of, but I think this is sort of the area that he goes, and I'm going to take Tyler Boyd.
Like I said, anybody playing with Joe Burrow, I mean, if A.J. Green can get on the field, I'd even like him again. I think Joe Burrow is got a lot of upside in that offense. And the offense, I mean, they're getting basically 2 first-rounders back this year with Shawne Williams coming back as long as he's healthy. They're one of those teams that I hate to do it because I did it with Cleveland where I got kind of bought into. Okay, they got some pieces that I really like. We've talked ad nauseum about how we like their defense, how they're building that with Sam Hubbard, and they got some young linebackers and Shawne Williams and the safeties and all that. So they're one of those teams that could be sneaky in the AFC because really it's Baltimore, and then everybody else has question marks. So since he could all of a sudden show back up, but it's not a bad pick, not a bad pick at all.
Also, on the other side of that, I don't see them magically flipping it on Pittsburgh or Baltimore. They might be throwing a lot in some of those games. I'm not a huge fan of him. I was a fan of him when you got him in around 55 of a startup. I actually got that in XFL. But it's slightly high for me, but I can see the upside. I'm not a huge Higgins fan. Obviously, AJ Green's not going to sit there forever, and I know they gave him 4 years and $40 million. That's not a ton. So on the flip side of his salary means he's probably out. Boyd's salary might be his salary keeps him in.
Absolutely.
And in that offense, you do want that.
It's manageable. I mean, the salary isn't one of those where they're going to start looking to dump it early. It's one of those they could easily just keep it because Higgins will be on his rookie contract, so that's very inexpensive. AJ Green will be gone, unless he gets healthy and they re-sign him. What else? They're not paying any tight ends right now. Burrow's still on a rookie deal. He could easily be there for the rest of his contract without any trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I'm not a huge Boyd fan, but in this sort of format, he was a number 19 wide receiver last year. So, I mean, you're expecting some positive regression out of that offense. So there's going to be, in theory, be more points out there. So this is probably about where he'd go.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all, especially with the way you're building that roster. It's a good fit. Absolutely. Oh, all right. Well, another week in the books, everybody. So next week we'll reset the deck. We'll start at round 8 and we'll keep working. Tonight we had some really interesting IDP picks. Some really good. We're still seeing the high-end IDP assets are still coming off the board pretty quickly now that we're past some of those elite offensive guys. Make sure you follow us over on Facebook. You follow us on Twitter. We got our Twitter handles here. I am excited about the next few months. We got a lot of IDP content planned coming. If you're in the Facebook community, we're still trying to fill 2 spots for the kind of big IDP Devy League that we're doing. That's really meant to help train some of the newer guys that want to get into Devy. So if you're in the Facebook community or on Discord, hit us up and let us know. We'll get you in. Once we get 2, we're gonna kick it off and start drafting. Make sure you go over to Twitter. We have a lot of stuff coming on. We've got redraft content that Sully's putting out. Sully's 2 Cents podcast has been dropping tons of information. He'll be hitting redraft stuff this year. We're going to start a new schedule of shows in the next few weeks or so once we finish nailing down some of the details, where we're going to be streaming every night. It's going to look a little different. I'm going to drop Tuesday night. I'm going to jump onto a Thursday night Devy focus show. If you're on Twitter, follow Pinnacle of Devy because that's a league that we're doing. If you're a Devy fan, it's literally like the deepest Devy nonsense I've ever seen, and I love it. Shane Hallam from Frank Pigskin's running. I think it's amazing.
It's insane.
It is.
It's nuts.
Once everything's said and done, I will share my rankings with the world so you guys can see. I think I've got all my names loaded up, and I've been going through and watching footage and trying to move guys around as accordingly. And I'm around 1,500 to 2,000 guys, so there's a lot of guys on the list. I've not gotten through all of them, obviously, and I probably won't. How are
the 6-year-olds that you're scouting?
Ask
Leon. You're going that deep. You're going that deep. I mean, you're probably hitting 6-year-olds.
Well, the nice thing, though, is if you look at, like, Rivals or 247, you just go through the different draft class of every year, and you're getting, 400 or 500 names to at least start looking at. So, really what I did was I went through and I pulled all the lists of guys that I knew of that I actually had been targeting, like for XFL or some of these other Devies that I do, and said, okay, these are the guys I know of that I've got a familiarity with that I like. Let's start looking through kind of the consensus recruiting classes, and I just started digging in. Which guys are still around, which guys aren't. Paul knows I was digging him on some FSU guys today that I was researching. I'm like, all right, these look like they could be something or they could be nothing. So it's one of those that it takes a lot. But, so we got a lot of content coming. We've got a lot of Devy articles coming out. Jason Eldred, who those of you that have been reading our Devy content, he's one of our Devy guys. He's got some articles coming up on Trey Lance and some of the other guys that you in the community have asked for. So we got a lot of content coming. We're going to be doing DFS stuff, redraft, obviously Devy, IDP, Dynasty. We got the whole thing. So if you're over here on YouTube, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when Paul, Craig, and I go live in the future. Keep it locked in there. Don't forget to go to Facebook. Don't forget to go to Discord. Find us on Twitter, and we will see you guys next Monday.